Hi, I'm back. Well, today my title is The Days of Noah and Sex. If you recall the words of the Lord in Matthew, the 24th chapter, what he said was that the last days, just before his return to earth, would be like the days of Noah. Now, some think about, suddenly, the waters came, and there's truth to that about these times. What's going on that may happen suddenly. But the days of Noah that caused God to bring the flood and wipe out everybody on earth but a handful of people was because of sex. And it was a special brand of sex. And that was sex between fallen angels and women on this earth that produced an offspring, which was referred to as the giants. But these are the very spirits, the very evil spirits that try to inhabit us today. Because the book of Enoch says that they were not allowed a burial place or a place to go once they were dead, other than roam the earth and look for whatever flesh they could find a doorway into. And if not a human being, then an animal. You remember that. You remember how the demons in the days of Jesus, when he was casting them out of the madman of Gadara, that the spirits, the evil spirits, begged not to go into the desert. At least let us have some flesh, some animals. And Jesus cast them to the animals, but the animals preferred to die than to have those spirits inside of them. And they had nowhere to go. They had to go to dry places because they can only live in a being that is alive. So there was 2,000 years ago, as the Lord ministered, you see these beings that were wiped off the earth in the days of Noah, the offspring of sex between fallen angels and women. So the earth was contaminated back when Noah was around, which was about maybe 4,000 years ago. I'm not sure. But this is where the contamination increased to an extent that God was so grieved that he wiped them all out, including the animals. Wiped them all out. So, Jesus is saying that in the last of the last days, we would have some signs in regards to what it was like in the days of Noah. And you can't help but think about the perversion and the immorality and the contamination of sex in the time of Noah, and compare it to what is going on today. Now, when we look at the book of Acts and we see some of the things that Paul was saying about fornication or about sex in general, what did he say? I've got it here on my iPad. I hope that it will come through as I turn it on. He says, flee from sexual immorality, fornication. All other sins a person commits are outside the body. But whoever sins sexually sins against their own body. And then he comes down and he says, it's good. Now think about this now. 2,000 years ago, this was said by Paul. It's good for a man not to have sexual relations with a woman. He considered that good. And then he says, but since sexual immorality is occurring, each man should have sexual relations with his own wife. So he gets very practical here. That this is the primary purpose of marriage, to keep you from sexual immorality. Well, we've been real contaminated since then. I mean, what are married couples doing now? Sleeping with others, group sex, porn, anything they can do to get off. This is happening in marriages. All right. They call it, what do they call that? I'm forgetting now. This permissive, you do you and I do me. And sometimes we do the do together, that kind of thing. So, like I said, the marriage bed was not defiled back in this time, 2,000 years ago. Not quite yet. Okay. But as of our day today, it's certainly defiled. And a license that you stood in front of a preacher or judge to receive to be married, that is not a marriage necessarily approved of and supported by God. So you have to read these scriptures in terms of where are we now? Where do we stand now? Where we stand now is all sex, more or less, has a degree of contamination upon it. We hear of it, women getting AIDS through their husbands, and husbands getting AIDS through their wives. Okay? We are not the same folk. Not the same brand in terms of sexuality and many other things that these scriptures was written for. So, okay. One of the things that we also learn from this scripture, get it back again. It turns off, as you guys know. Get it back again. One of the other things it says is that, okay, in 1 Corinthians 7, he's talking to the husband and wife now. Do not deprive each other, except perhaps by mutual consent and for a time, so that you may devote yourself to prayer. Y'all ever heard of that? Today? Husband and wife praying together? Praying to who? About what? Then come together again. That's what he's telling, the couple. come together again, so that Satan will not tempt you because of your lack of self-control. That is the main issue where it comes to overcoming fornication and other forms of sex. It's our lack of self-control. So that's the issue here. That's how Satan gets an in. Now, we don't have, like 2,000 years ago, two virgins coming together and getting married, which is the design that God set up. We don't have that. And even I'm running into young women who have never had a man, but they know sexual orgasm. Now, how be that? I don't need to go into details on that. They've never actually penetrated. A man has never penetrated them, but in some way or another, they have had sexual orgasm. If you have had sexual orgasm, I don't believe you to be a virgin. Okay? I don't. What it is, once you get that orgasm, it's like anything. If you walk into a house and you smell food, all of a sudden you think you're hungry, but you just ate. That's the nature of the body. The nature of the body is that once a sensation comes upon it, then the body needs some more, or thinks it needs some more, and will convince the soul and even the spirit that, oh yeah, I got to have me some. You ever hear some of them old ladies talk? Oh, I got this headache. Oh, I got to have me some. Oh, God. And they go like that. All right? And they're not wrong, because it's the nature of the body. But we don't walk in the body. We don't walk in the flesh. We walk in the spirit. And that's where overcoming and becoming whole takes place, is in the spirit. All right? So once you've had a sexual orgasm, even if you're a virgin, you're not a virgin anymore. And you're open to the appetite, and you're open to losing your self-control. And that's where we're at. The spirit needs to be built up. The mind needs to be transformed. The emotions must get under control if you are going to get whole. I had a dream this morning. I don't have enough time to tell it to you. But what that dream showed me is that when I'm asleep and any angel tries to ease up on me for sex, that it is built in my spirit, okay, to rise up even when I'm asleep and say, no. All right? That's what you need. You need the strength and the training of your spirit to say no.